You're listening to Community Forum on KCCC 930 AM, sponsored by Eddy County, honoring God, country, and family, thriving with industry since 1889.
Thank you for listening to Community Forum. My name's Johnny Chandler. I'm the owner of KCCC 930 AM and the host of Community Forum. And with me today is Ruben Aragon. Ruben Aragon is the director of the Donnelly Library at New Mexico Highlands University, sir. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you also mentioned something before we started recording about being on an important legislative committee. If you wanted to kind of tell me what that title is and kind of what that role is, that'd be great as well.
Okay, thank you. I am part of what's called the New Mexico Consortium of Academic Libraries. Been a member for a number of years, but on the NMHU group, we have a legislative committee which I chair, and it is a very valuable committee in the sense of legislation for the state of New Mexico pertaining to libraries.
Okay, so I imagine I'm speaking to the right individual as well as the partners that's with you when it comes to talking about the general obligation bond that's coming up on November 5th. I'd like to introduce the guest you have with you and with us today. It's April Kent. April Kent is the Associate Library Director at New Mexico Highlands University. So how are you doing today, April?
Yes, I'm April Kent, the Associate Library Director. I'm very well today, and I am also involved with the New Mexico Consortium of Academic Libraries and the New Mexico Library Association. And one thing that Ruben neglected to say is he's the president of the New Mexico Library Association, as well as being a very valuable member of the New Mexico Consortium of Academic Libraries.
Very humble individual. That sounds like a lot of work, Ruben. Thank you very much thank you both for joining us. I'm also joined in person, not that it matters to anybody listening, but I'm joined in person by Samantha Villa. Samantha Villa is the Southeast New Mexico College Library Director. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
You're good? All right. Glad you're here. So Samantha's going to tell us today in this program a little bit about what, if the bond passes, what it'll do for Southeast New Mexico College. But I kind of want to start it with Ruben and April. Kind of thank you for introducing yourselves, right? And I'd also like to just, since you're with the consortium, let's talk about library bonds in general as a whole. And so my first question is simply going to be, what is a library bond? What are library bonds, and how do they help?
Yes. General obligation bonds are a way for the government of New Mexico to raise funds for specific projects with voter approval. Through the years, there have always been at least 3 bonds. The first bond is for senior citizens. The second bond is for libraries. And the third bond is for higher education. What April and I plan to do today, and Samantha, we plan to talk more in regards to Bond 2, which is the library's component of the bonds that will be placed on the ballot in the November 5th election.
Okay, so just a quick reminder to everybody that's listening: general obligation bonds are something that we do every 2 years, right? And so that's what we're doing for this one. Do you guys know how much is this bond going to provide money for the state if passed?
For the library bond, this go around, it's $19 million that would go around to libraries statewide, public libraries, university libraries, community college libraries, tribal libraries, and public libraries and public schools as well. So right. Very widespread, has a great impact, 19 million.
Yeah, 19 million feels like a small number to me, and this is just my opinion. That feels like a pretty small number when you look at like Bond 3, which is $230 million and things of that nature. So is 19 million really does that really get the job done for the whole state? I guess it does, considering that's what you're proposing.
Well, I would say libraries could always do more with more, but 19 million spread across all of the tribal, school, public, and academic libraries does a lot of really important work and allows us to provide excellent collections and services to our patrons.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, April. Samantha, I wanted to turn to you real quick because you were mentioning something to me the other day about some large data package or some type of centralized system that's very important that comes with the bond money.
Yes, and jump in, Ruben and April, as I'm talking if you'd like. But one big project that the academic libraries use funds for is a collaborative project. And that every cycle we go and negotiate, a package of databases that'll meet the needs of all of the academic institutions. So all of us, of course we get our own funds, but before they get distributed, we all kind of pitch in for this package.
Okay, so how, Ruben and or April, how important is this collaborative funding that we get that kind of supports all libraries throughout the entire state?
It's a very valuable package of databases. It provides the information to all 2-year and 4-year institutions. Typically, a 2-year, there's no way they could afford it on their own. So having the academic and the 2-year colleges, which are 30 in the state of New Mexico, will allow this databases to be available to all students and faculty in the state of New Mexico.
Okay, so that sounds like a pretty critical collaborative, pretty critical piece, because we do know that being at Southeast New Mexico College, the smaller colleges don't have the same funds as some larger universities do. So obviously that sounds like a really, really great idea. Let me ask another question specifically. What would happen if we were not to get any funds from the general obligation bond? Meaning, how critical is this general obligation bond funds? And we've been depending on these for so long, right? So are we just completely reliant on this, or what other solutions would we have if it were not to pass?
Well, go ahead, Ruben.
I was going to say, just in humor way, have you ever seen the movie Hang 'em High?
Yeah, of course.
That's what will happen to all the colleges in the state of New Mexico. We cannot continue affording those databases without the collaboration and the funds that come from the GO bond.
It would mean a big reduction for the services and the collections that the academic libraries could supply. We do have institutional budgets, but they would not go as far. There'd have to be some very difficult decisions made. Not all programs, especially really important programs, like I know for our university in nursing and the medical sciences, would be so hurt by that as well, and very essential for the state. And like most academic libraries do have a collection development budget from their own institution, but I know some of the public libraries and some of the school libraries, the only way they can purchase books is through the GO bond fund. So it would have a big impact every community.
Right. And that actually natural segue, April, thank you, to my next question, is I wanted to talk about libraries and technology, because libraries just aren't books anymore, right? And I think a lot of people think that maybe I'm just putting more books or maybe another laptop in a library or something. But the databases for the academic side of education is very important, especially just think about allied health and all the information you need, allied health being our nursing program here at SNMC. Mm-hmm. Think about all the data and all the knowledge that you have to have at your fingertips, and who's going to collect that? Who's going to put all that together, individually, or how can you afford it? So tell me a little bit, naturally leading into, tell me a little bit about how maybe when you all started in the library industry, if that's a term, the library industry, when you guys started in libraries, how the technology has changed and how libraries have changed with that technology.
This is Ruben. As far as when I started in the late 70s, started here at New Mexico Highlands University in 1985. And when I got here, the library here was still using the Dewey Decimal System, which is primarily used by public libraries. We converted through the years primarily with automated systems to create what was called a smart barcode that was put on the books and reshelved under the Library of Congress. It's been a gradual progress as far as what can be done, but from day one that I was here to today, it has been a tremendous increase in what we can provide using technology and electronic material. It's just amazing to see the growth that has happened, and really what's great about it is the fact that with a lot of universities putting a lot more courses online, it provides an individual, let's say in Artesia, it provides them to take a class online and have library material available, whether it's a full text article or a electronic book. So it's amazing to see the growth through the years.
Go ahead, Samantha. What do you want to add to that?
Well, when it comes to, academics, I started college in 2000. And of course, the databases that we did have, the librarian had to do it for us because it came at a higher cost.
Right.
And most of my career, I was a remote student. And one way that the online resources helped me is, I can't drive. And so if I weren't to have had access to these databases, unless I used to work at the public library, then I would have had to wait till I gone to work to look for the resources. But being that I'd be able to have those online ones, it really helped. So as a student, that's how I see it could be helpful in one way.
Do any of you, and Ruben, April, as well as Samantha, I'd love all of you to kind of chime in briefly on this. As generations get older, technology and computers and reading and ebooks seems to be taking over for a lot. I think the beauty of holding a book or a newspaper is something that can't be matched. But do we ever in the future envision a scenario where there are no physical books in a library? April, why don't you start out?
Sure. I would say a lot of people still really love a physical book, and just observing students like your traditional 18 to 22-year-old undergraduate, things like novels, books of history, they really sometimes love having it in person and in their hands. I don't know how it will go for every medium. I don't think anybody gets super nostalgic about when you had to go to an index or a print directory of information. It's so much easier to be able to call that up on a computer. But I think print is still going to be important. And it's also so important in educational institutions, I believe, that have archives that store our history, that sometimes having those physical materials are very important. It's just which materials are going to be in print and which are going to be online. And getting to Samantha's point, a lot of students, if they want to have study material, they're looking at research material, they want to call it up on their computer, maybe at midnight at their home. And other times you want to come and browse the collection. So I think it's the ratio is going to change, but I think we're always going to have print material, physical material, as well as electronic.
Ruben, do you feel the same sentiment?
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, sorry.
I just wanted to indicate that one of the programs that all libraries participates in is the Interlibrary Loan Program, and that allows for students or community members to request from a library to get a book or an article from another library and have it delivered to the library closest to them, and so they still would have access to the print material, which is very beneficial. We still need, in my opinion, the print material so that people still have that capability of holding the item in their hands.
All right, Samantha, you kind of talked to me a little bit before we started recording, but go ahead and share your thoughts on that too.
I don't think books will ever go away because, every community is different and our students are different. So you have to keep in mind, which ones, are tech savvy and which ones are not. And so you have to kind of find the balance to support everybody. And it's just, they're never going to go away for sure. But, just having access to both is definitely good. Even down the road, you have some people that don't trust technology or can't afford the technology.
Right.
So
right.
having the both is good.
Next question. And Ruben, if you want to start on this one, what do you believe is the most important thing a library provides to a community?
As far as a library, whether it's a academic, public, school, or tribal, it provides for individuals to come to a location and have a place where they can come in, read a book, read a journal, be able to have access to computers. One of the things we have to remember is that a lot of government agencies are requiring for individuals to apply, whether it's for a job, whether it's for submitting their income tax, just a number of things that are done electronically. So a library is a place, an all-in-one location that a person can come in and be able to enjoy the past as well as the future.
April, what do you think? What's the most important thing a library provides to a community?
Well, I think one of the best things libraries, the most important, is they provide library staff to assist people. So a lot of times people need help with using technology. They have questions about finding and evaluating information. I've helped everybody, and not just people always think it's the older people, but younger people, how to attach a file, how to format a document, how to find good information, and also people who are there to make sure that library staff are very responsive to their community's needs. As Samantha said, every person is different, every community is different, and so they're really good about knowing what kinds of books, what kinds of DVDs, what kinds of electronic resources do our communities want. So I think the library staff is one of the most important things for making sure that collections and the services are what their community both wants and needs.
I have yet to ever walk into a library where the staff just was not super friendly. They're always really friendly and helpful, and it's a very relaxing vibe, which is something I like. It's a place for an escape too, if you need. I think for the noise of the world pretty easily. Samantha, what's your take on that? What's the most important thing for the community?
Well, a welcoming environment. We welcome anybody that walks through our doors. Usually answering a lot of questions and helping people find the information that we need is pretty useful. We've had some really challenging questions here and when I worked at the public library. And some of the questions had to do with like family history and things like that. And being able to support them and find that information is really, really good. Or it makes me feel good, at least. When it comes to our community that visits our library here at SCNMC, we are welcoming here. We talk to everybody, that.
Oh, yeah.
And I find that it also helps maybe motivate them to look into possibly continuing on to college or looking to one of our trades or something. We can help them kind of figure out what direction they might want to go in their life or their career.
Right. I'm going to answer this one too. I know I was asking you all this question, but I'm going to ask myself this question as well. I think the most important thing the library provides to a community is information, and free information on top of that. You can learn anything you want at a library, and in a world of internet and not even sure what's happening on what webpage that I'm going on, I think a library is a very safe space to get real, concrete, truthful information. So that's what I appreciate about the library the most, and that's what I think the most important thing to the library is. I read my newspapers and everything because I have a library card at the Carlsbad Public Library, and I have so much access to information that I wouldn't have otherwise. So.
And librarians are way better than Google.
Yes, absolutely. Google is not an excuse for a librarian, right? It doesn't replace it very well. All right, you could all answer this collectively together if you wanted, or one of you can answer it. I don't have it's not for a very specific person necessarily, but it's a very standard question when it comes to general obligation bonds and elections. Will voting on the library bond raise your taxes?
It will not.
Okay, Ruben and April, do you agree with Samantha on that?
Yes.
Yes.
And probably the follow-up to that is, why is it not going to increase? Is because the state follows a 10-year bond cycle, which means that every time a bond is paid off, a new one comes in. So in reality, you're having a bond paid off, which means no more taxes in regards to that. And any new taxes, if there's any, will be absorbed within that 10-year cycle.
Right. Perfect. Thank you very much. I also wanted to just remind all our listeners, this is a statewide bond election. This is not a county bond election. So this is for the entire state. And as you've just heard over the past 20 minutes or so, the libraries across the state are all connected to the point where it is a statewide election, and it is on November 5th for everybody that remembers. Early voting starts on October 8th. That's an option as well. I'd like to go, we're going to end this program pretty quickly, but I'd like to do kind of a round robin at the end. Ruben, you're going to go last this time since I'll let you go first. I'm going to start with Samantha. And this question is very simple. Is there anything else that you would like to add, or is there anything that you think that we have missed in this short interview?
I just want to, let people know that it is very important to support libraries as far as, the academics, of course, these resources that we come together and purchase that, as Ruben had said, community colleges wouldn't be able to afford. And it's all like our jobs as libraries is to support the community, give them what they need, have the resources that they're, don't have access to. And with funding, like bond funding, we're able to afford that and provide that information.
All right. Let's see. I said Ruben's going to go last. April, anything else you'd like to add?
I really want to echo what Samantha says, that this bond allows librarians and other library staff to provide the resources, this quality information that our communities need, and it makes everybody better. Libraries are very collaborative, so we always know community college library students at community colleges go to four-year colleges, they contribute to their communities, and libraries are an important part of that whole process.
All right, Ruben.
Yes. I guess really my push on this is, please, everybody take this as a serious election. We need to get out and vote. We can't tell you how to vote. We can only tell you, and I think you've heard in the last half hour that Bond 2 is a very vital component for libraries in the state of New Mexico. And they are there to help all citizens of New Mexico.
All right. So make sure you vote on November 5th. I personally don't care how you vote. Just make sure you vote. That's incredibly important. I'd like to thank Samantha Villa, the Southeast New Mexico College Library Director, for coming on today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd also like to thank Ruben Aragon and April Kent from New Mexico Highlands University. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to Community Forum on KCCC 930 AM, sponsored by Eddy County, honoring God, country, and family, thriving with industry since 1889.